Welcome to Beerfield. I'm Beerfield Hop. That's that. Over there somewhere on some part of my screen that I can't seem to figure out how to point to is Beerfield 3.
That's me.
That's him.
That's me. I just turned off my. I'm struggling with my monitor because as you know, I like to wait until the worst times to replace stuff, or just wait for fucking ever. As Windows is telling you that I shouldn't be talking. Like we just talked about this. Like you asked me to stop talking.
I did. I wasn't telling you shouldn't be talking. I was just trying to level you out.
I know.
Because I'd been fucking with volume a little bit. Disc golf's back.
Disc golf is back. I got it, which is great because I got to get myself kind of like geared back into it.
I do too. There's going to be some good weather on Sunday, Monday, so I'm probably going to go at least get some field work in on Sunday and throw for the first time in probably since November.
That's awesome.
December time for him. So go try out some new plastic, figure out what I want to carry. Because I've got some mid-ranges that are, kind of duplicate purpose and some other things I need to whittle down because my bag isn't that big.
Yeah, it's all about coverage. Just like, and in Dynasty, it's all about having coverage.
It is. Las Vegas going on. I was watching that today. Paige Pierce up on the female division with tied actually with Katrina Allen.
Two very, very good.
Over Kristen Tatar, who's also very good.
I think Paige could beat. I think Paige could beat most men. Like I would love to see her. Like you see it like in like small tidbits, right? When they do their side stuff, and she kind of, she can kind of definitely not only hold her own, but pretty much dominate. I would love to see her in the men's field and just whoop some ass.
Nope, I would as well. On the mid side, Chris Dickerson up on Eagle McMahon and Gannon Burr right now through round one.
Dude, if Dickerson's involved, like if Dickerson's up top, that dude he just doesn't relinquish like leads. He's so fucking when he's on, dude.
He's got
nobody. I don't think anybody. Maybe Heimberg or McMahon, but
he's got a 1-stroke lead on McMahon and Gannon Burr, Wysocki, Kevin Jones, Calvin Heimberg, Adam Hammis, Nathan Queen, bunch of others back at 9 under.
So the big question is what is Heimberg's aesthetic look right now?
We need to know if we hate him or not. He's got the hair back.
Yes. See, now he's a hero. He shaves that shit off. Villain. Keep your hair big, bro.
Yep, he's got the hair back. Yeah, NFL world. We're going to talk 2021 draft class, get into some of the latest news, check in on some dynasty prospects. But before that,
what's fueling Beerfield?
What fuels you today?
I'm drinking some Phase 3. It's been a minute. Normally, I like to rep the brewery I work for. And today I decided, not today, I got this Monday, I don't remember. I got Phase 3. This is their Czech style dark lager.
I love dark lagers.
Yeah, same here. So for those wondering, Czech style, generally using, Czech hops, Czech yeast. To kind of help give it its own. Obviously, with these European styles, generally bitter. The hops they use are generally bitter. I don't know if that's because of the water or just of the soil. Or whatever. It's soil.
Soil in the
soil.
It's like grapes. It's soil in the region that they're grown in. And
that
stuff.
Makes sense.
So Czech has a specific, like Saz, for example, has some specific notes, and German hops have some specific notes to them.
Yeah. What is the specific malts? It's not chocolate malt, but it's like a roasty. It's almost like it's like a more roasted Marzen or
it's Czech Pilsner and then probably Munich.
Munich, yeah.
Munich or Vienna. And it's actually I mean, the grain bill's probably for that style. It's going to be Czech pills, and then it's probably going to be. I don't know. It wouldn't be. It might be a dark Munich.
Is Vienna
malt.
like hard? I don't know if Vienna would be dark enough. I mean, it's not.
Vienna wouldn't be dark enough. There are some. There are some highly kilned Munich malts that would be though.
Okay. So for those of you that are still listening, as we get into our,
we just lost half
our
of our
nerdy. We just lost
half of our.
We're down to 50 now. God damn it. We both love this style, and this is not a very common style, but because we're seeing a trend into more of the European, just more of. We're back to the basics, right? Everyone's hazed out. No, people have had enough of the milkshakes and the overly adjunct stouts and porters and all that stuff. So we're starting to see a lift into the European or the basic styles, and I'm here for it because dark lagers are amazing.
Dark lagers are amazing. I'm drinking bourbon on the show for the first time in a little bit.
I saw that, man. It's been a minute.
I've got Peerless, which I was on the verge of killing. So Kentucky Peerless was a distillery that shut down around Prohibition. They've recently reopened. Their bourbon and the rye were the first two releases from the new distillery. Bourbon's about 6 years old. I think retails for about $70. This one checks in at 110 proof, and the bottle's actually pretty cool. It's not a normal run-of-the-mill bottle. So if you're on YouTube,
I've seen those.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you can see that. But one of the more unique bottles I've had, I noticed it sitting there almost empty and just decided I needed to finish it. I do also have, I didn't want to put them on the show because they were just on the show, I think, not that long ago. Maybe they weren't. I don't know. I got Hand of Fate's Tipping Cow with me as well.
It's been a while since I had them on the show. I did their collaboration with Benny's.
You did. I've got the Tipping Cow, which was their chocolate milk stout, which I just opened before we started the show, and I didn't finish it before that. So that's why that's there.
Perfect.
All right. Looking at this dark malt thing real quick, I just want to see what the common Carry Munich and pale chocolate malt and some of them. So, I mean, there's got to be a variance there. Carry Munich's one of those highly kilned
makes sense.
Munich malts, and it does.
It's going to be roasty. It's going to be better. Just the hops they use are going to help because you can get pretty subtle hop bitterness to it. They kind of help more on on the mouthfeel and then towards the aftertaste. And then it's very just that dry coffee, roasty. I just love it.
Absolutely. All right, into the news. So Aaron Rodgers is a troll. I don't know why people are surprised by that.
Hey. So my post said it sounded like I didn't think he was going to retire. I'm just saying. And then I had the troll DJ.
I'm not blaming you. It was everybody else on the internet that was pissed off about that. And I'm like, what? He was just showing gratitude. I'm like, and that's what I assumed he was going to come out. He knew that everybody would bite and did it to fuck with people. I want more players to do that. I want more players to know that the media and Twitter is going to lose their shit over something and just post vague shit for their own amusement. That's all Aaron Rodgers did.
It was so good. It was perfect. And then me trolling, and then me having fun with with DJ.
Yeah, it was funny as hell.
Formerly of Loaded Box, but I
just
can't wait for him to come after me when when all the cap space that that Green Bay is making to bring back both Rodgers and Adams, so we can get a last ride. Just kidding, but maybe.
Yeah, they're hoping to not franchise tag Adams, and Rodgers is, going to give him a decision soon. He said, whatever soon.
I wish they. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think they need to. They can't afford to keep trying to, please Rodgers at this point. The roster is crumbling, but the NFC North is a very acquirable division, just given the quality of the teams right now. So I get it.
Chiefs are going to retain Eric Bieniemy, as they should. Brian Flores signed as an assistant with Pittsburgh. Assistant defensive coordinator.
Defensive coach,
Defensive coach.
Linebackers, I think.
It's also released that he refused to sign what essentially amounted to a gag order, separation order. I don't know why telemarketers are calling me at 8 o'clock at night.
It's about your student loans.
It's not.
It's about a property
about
from a state you haven't lived in
Arizona.
20 years.
Arizona. It's my. they're calling me about my car loan. Or
Like, oh man,
about
this
my
property
car's-
that you recently acquired. No.
It's about my car's extended warranty.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway, Flores refused to sign a gag order, left millions on the table to speak out against the team. So, the fact that there was a no disparagement order, I don't know if that's standard or not. That means something was fucking going on.
I'm sure there's.
Stephen Ross has put himself right up there with Dan Snyder and Stan Kroenke in terms of shitbag owners.
I'm not going to be surprised if all 32 of these owners have dirt on them. I mean,
It's just how much you're going to know about.
I think anyone would be surprised. So,
Falcons hired former Bears GM Ryan Pace, senior personnel executive. Actually, he should have a front office job. He did some things that were decent. He just missed on the quarterback and missed on the head coach, and that's not going to keep you in a GM role. But, you know, there are some other things that he was able to work out that were okay. I don't have a lot else to say on that.
no, I mean, that's, yeah.
Aaron Jones restructured his contract, so he's not going anywhere. AJ Dillon Truthers. He converted, I think, $3.88 million of next year's money into signing bonus and added void years to 25 and 26 to spread out the cap hit more.
Yeah, this is these are all moves that this team is making to, again, as you just pointed to keep Rodgers, Adams here. This is to keep the competitive window open.
Yep.
Saints didn't do this specifically, but it's
the same thing.
You know, during the Breeze years, but it's the same concept. So,
And it just, you know, if you see a player get their contract restructured, all that's really telling you is they're unlikely to be cut at that point if they've taken the pay cut and played along with the team. Zach Stacy, remember that video? Misdemeanor charges for domestic violence and battery, 2 misdemeanor for criminal mischief, no felony charges. So
at least he's got some charges, but I
that's,
don't know how you don't get a felony charge there.
I don't either. That was weird to me. The XFL has agreed to work with the NFL on rule changes to and innovation to advance the game. So basically what they're becoming is what I forget what independent league it is that does this for the MLB. But there's an independent league when the MLB considers implementing a rule change or doing something to innovate the game, help the competitive window. They've got an agreement with a couple of independent leagues actually, where those leagues will implement that rule so that the MLB has the data on how that it impacts the game. And if it's actually going to do what they intend before they bring it to the major league level or even the minor league level. And it sounds like that's what that agreement's going to be to start, is that the XFL, when they relaunch, will kind of be a proving ground for some concepts the NFL might want to implement. And that could open the door to more, too, is the development league. I mean, one of the USFL, who we'll get to in a minute, and the XFL has got to stick this time. And the XFL, having that backing from the NFL, you know, says some good things to start, even if it's not a direct player development type situation.
It's good. No, it's good.
So
I'm gonna give it an old school Dan review. It's good.
Yep. Reminder, XFL is owned by The Rock and is set to relaunch next year. USFL launching this year, which will probably fall again. But some notables in that draft: Kyle Lauletta, somebody that a lot of people thought were going to be good somehow. I don't know. I was not one of them.
No.
Pittsburgh. Jordan Ta'amu to Tampa Bay. He was the Battlehawks quarterback, former Ole Miss quarterback that had DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown and Dawson Knox and
Elijah Moore,
DeMarcus Lodge, a lot of everyone, basically.
Yeah, people.
But he was good with the Battlehawks, too. He was going to Tampa Bay. Jordan Lasley, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He'll also be in Tampa Bay. Taywan Taylor to New Orleans, Mike Weber to New Jersey, and Larry Rose III to New Orleans. So
already out of football. somewhere the counselor is crying because, didn't get his chance.
Larry Rose?
Yeah. I think that was counselor's guy. I don't remember.
I don't know. I like Larry Rose. He was a small little scat back, though.
You got to read my favorite news tidbit.
What's that?
The New York Post reports Amazon, in quotes, could make a serious run
At Sean McVay
for their upcoming Thursday night football broadcast.
I don't think he's going to leave the sideline. They also made a run at
I
John
just think it's
Lynch.
fucking hysterical.
It is pretty fucking hysterical. Amazon, give the people what they want. You know who you make a run at for that broadcast? Fucking Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
That's who you make a run at.
You pair him up with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, man.
That would be good.
I'm not retired. I'm just going to broadcast.
Do that for a Manning cast.
Oh.
NFL scrapped combine bubble plans, so that boycott's off the table. And then this is a note I found interesting for Dynasty, as we're about to dive into Dynasty. But the Colts are expected to place a second-round tender on Ashton Dulin.
Yeah, no, I saw some of the old Ashland Doolin truthers along with us getting hyped about it. All the dude catches are touchdowns. When he gets targeted and he catches the football, touchdowns.
Well, that says something about their long-term plans. If they're willing to pay him $3.94 million on a second-round tender to hang around, that tells you that there's actually some belief in his game, and that T.Y. Hilton during the end and Paris Campbell not able to stay healthy, that they see something for him. Comparison's sake, they're the same tender that the Patriots are putting on Jacoby Myers, who is their top receiver. So
Myers makes sense because he's a great fit.
Mm-hmm.
With Jones and he's a good 2-3 as they continue to build up that receiving core there. I mean, they reconstructed Hilton. I'm assuming Hilton's probably will be cut at this point.
They reconstructed him. They built him $6 million man right there.
The $6 million. Well, more like $2.3 million man.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
we have the technology.
They restructured him. His leg is actually on his arm now.
Yeah.
It's actually T.Y. Hilton's just Mr. Potato.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. God, they don't have no receivers. I forget they picked up QQT. Didn't know that at some point. Yeast.
Yay.
That's right. No, but I do like this for Dulin. He should. You don't get a second round tender and not have yourself a chance to earn opportunity. So, one name to watch, and just it's not. I mean, it's not a great passing offense, not a lot of volume, but hey, they need a number 2 alongside Pittman. Mm-hmm. Maybe they found him.
They do. Josh Larkey was supposed to join us for this episode, by the way. He is off in a bobsled somewhere, so
patrolling the cold wilderness and snow.
He'll be joining us next week, so make sure you tune into that show.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also told breaking news he'll be here. I think in 3 weeks.
Will he?
We'll see.
Okay. Next week, 3 weeks. All the same. We're just gonna.
We love Larky.
We're just gonna keep telling you guys that he's gonna show up, and then eventually he'll show up. We do love him. He was very apologetic. He felt bad about it, and we weren't hurt by it at all. We just.
I'm just like, dude, it's okay.
It's gonna be a joke now. That's all it is.
You were so busy. The fact that you would even make time for us.
He's a
appreciate it.
Good dude. All right, 2021 draft class.
Boom.
We're gonna start with quarterbacks. After year one, I think most of us thought 5 guys would have relevance. There's actually 6. So let's start up top. Let's start with the guys that got starting reps this year, and that is going to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. I think we got to start at the top here with Lawrence. By a lot of standards, he underwhelmed in year one. and it was not what you want to see out of a number one overall pick, regardless of the supporting cast. Now, you can make the excuses that, and he gets a pass in year 1 too, because it's not really excuses. He was in a dysfunctional franchise, a dysfunctional development operation, a dysfunctional coaching staff with no receiving help. After DJ Chark broke his ankle early, they lost ETN. It's a rebuilding team anyway. If the deck could be stacked against you, the deck was stacked against Trevor Lawrence, and you're going to need to see strides from him in year 2, though. Otherwise, we're going to have to start talking about it as, a high-level bust potential.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And with all the points you just hit, too, with the deck stacked against them, losing, key playmakers, the fact that they didn't have any key playmakers, the fact that, a converted defensive back and an old busted first-round pick was his top 2 receiving options just speaks volumes to what he had to go with. Still top, he's top 5 in money throws, top 3 in danger plays, number 1 interceptable passes. The dude takes risks. He's everything that you want from a fantasy quarterback who's not getting high rushing volume, is taking shots downfield. And he's doing that with the cast of guys that you see at Walmart. So the fact is that they have, multiple 3rd-round picks, and they have high, another high 2nd-round pick. There's going to, in this receiving class, there's going to be great options available to him. And there's still a lot to like here. The fact that he was still able to be top 5 in money throw is just given how bad the offense was. And that's not even
number 1
up Doug Peterson.
Number 1 in drop passes too.
Yeah, I mean he was like bottom 3 in a target or in receiver separation.
Yeah, catchable pass rate was also very, very low. It was 47th, but part of that's just on receivers too, and
it was a rough year.
Being able to separate, but you're right. There are some things to like when you looked at, you got the gunslinger mentality, but the money throws are a positive. 8th in air yards is a positive. Not afraid to work the ball downfield. That's a positive, but there, play action completion percent was respectable, but there's a lot of things that need to be helped there too.
There is, and you're going to have hopefully better coaching. Obviously better playmakers. He's already, you bring in Doug Peterson, and he had a more up tempo pace of play. Obviously went through a lot of passes. And those offenses, it's not like Jacksonville's defense is great. They're going to be playing from behind. So, I'm not saying expect the Peyton Manning leap from year 1, year 2 that we saw from him way back in the day, but I don't think anyone's going to be shocked with I won't say wide open division, but the AFC South it's
pretty open.
It's pretty open, right? The Titans aren't juggernauts, worst number 1 seed, since the Green Bay Packers.
No, the Colts aren't juggernauts. The Texans are bad. Most people are going to assume it's going to be the Colts and the Titans struggling for that division lead, but not anywhere near the number 1 seed. The Titans somehow were a 1 seed, probably because they played the Jaguars and the Texans twice a year, and
they caught teams at the right time. But either way, this is Lawrence can do a lot, and I think there's a lot of upside. I think every single quarterback, the ones that didn't hit, this of these top 5. So guys that aren't named Mac Jones, all are receiving upside. There's upside. There's reasons why to still be excited about them.
You can
on
justify
top of it being a poor class.
You can justify it for all of them in year 1. I think. I
think
that a lot.
Same with Mac Jones, but Mac Jones literally did what we all expected him to be. He did, right? Especially for fantasy,
What I'm saying is that you can justify the poor performance in year 1 without saying that they're a bust or being overly concerned right now.
Yeah,
because there are things to like. Moving on to Zach Wilson, it's a lot of the same story. Although Zach Wilson had a little bit better results. Miguel Chapin, who we'll have on in a couple weeks, does the AYA tracking, and pretty much for Zach Wilson said 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but there was gradual progress there throughout year 1. You can see that in the stat lines. Not quite the lack of a cast or the coaching dysfunction that that Trevor Lawrence had, which did lead to a bit more success. Ooh, there's a new pace of play metric here too.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just noticing shiny new things on Player Profiler. Thank you, Larky. I know that's him. So anyway, for Zach Wilson, you got to continue to get better. He, unlike Lawrence, I don't think needs to take a major leap, but he still needs to continue that upward trend for you two to feel better about it, and probably increase the rate a little bit. You don't have the money throws, but you also don't have the danger plays or the interceptable plays with Zach Wilson. It's just not up there that high. Some things that are there to like. Red zone completion percentage was up there. Deep ball completion percentage was up there. He was third in drop passes, so him, like Lawrence, was not getting a lot of help from his receivers. 29th in receiver target separation. So we all know that Elijah Moore, who we'll talk about in a while, had a good season, but Corey Davis was banged up, hurt, and ineffective, and same thing with Jamison Crowder. So there are things with Zach Wilson to like, especially that he has a little bit more of a rushing floor. But it just didn't all come together for a big blow-up year one. And that's going to happen.
I mean, we were encouraged by the final few games, right? No interceptions. He played game manager, right? The 91 rushing yard game, was great to see. Rushing touchdowns were there. The best thing, the thing that makes Wilson intriguing in terms of what we could see from a year one, year two leap, the Jets have 2 top 10 picks. The Jets are picking 5 times in the top 70. Mm-hmm. And they're not going all defense. As a matter of fact, those first 2 picks could be offense, right? Offensive line, protect Wilson, get that better. And then outside receiving option, we see a lot of mock drafts with Treylon Burks and Drake London going up this high. They can still trade back and still target those guys. Wilson, if the Jets are going to believe in a way that they didn't do with Darnold, is invest into making the situation better. Even if it doesn't hit for him, it'll hopefully hit for the next guy that they try to bring in. So there's a lot of good to like about this upside, and he's going to be super cheap, right? He's already a polarizing prospect alongside Lance and Jones, where half the community didn't like him, and another half loved him. So there's this.
I loved him.
I'm
always on one side of a polarizing argument.
There tends to be some buying opportunity, and I think he's better than every quarterback in this upcoming class. So, and he's probably going to be.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
more available. I would easily. I don't think any quarterback is going to go top 10 in this class. Wilson was picked top 2 in one of the best rookie quarterback classes, at least prospect-wise, we've ever seen.
Class is a lot of maybes. There's going to be 2 or 3 guys that end up starting, but it's Kenny Pickett and a lot of maybes, and Pickett would have easily been 5th in this class.
I would have had Jones higher. I don't love Pickett as much as you do, but we'll get to that when we get to quarterbacks. I don't hate him by means. I'm just
we'll get to that.
Not impressed. So,
Anyway, Justin Fields, the other one that kind of fits this mold of highly touted, highly talented, not a lot going right for him in year one, and that's it. The Bears didn't commit to him and then had to go to him, and then wouldn't commit to him and then had to go to him. And his supporting cast also was highly – it wasn't as lacking as some other things. Darnell Mooney had a very nice season. Cole Kmet started to break out a bit. Allen Robinson's trash, so we won't go there. But, he did have it a little bit better, and I think that showed. The rushing upside was definitely on display, but, for me, he also had a little bit more polish to put on there, and I think that he fits the exact same mold of the upside is still there, right? We could easily turn around next year, 2 years from now, and Justin Fields is the best quarterback in this class, and I wouldn't be surprised at all just because of the raw talent that is there. But some things to like, some things to not like. Let's start with the things to like. Air yards per attempt was second. That's good. Deep ball completion percent is 12th. That's good. And that might be it, actually. Looking at some other things, he didn't have the drop passes that Zach Wilson had, and that's a counting stat. So he had less starts, but he didn't have the drop passes anywhere close to him, really, that Zach Wilson had or that Trevor Lawrence had. His receivers were able to separate. They were getting separation and getting open. He was not great in any completion percentage metric. He was 30th or lower in all of those. You can blame the offense. You can't really blame the receivers on that one if they're not really dropping passes and they're separating. You can't blame the receivers, even though there weren't a lot of household names there. You can blame the offense. He wasn't a bad offense with a lame duck coaching staff that wouldn't commit to him. He's still, though, I don't think it changes my evaluation with Justin Fields that he is the highest ceiling, lowest floor prospect. No, second to Trey Lance, sorry.
Yeah, he's second.
Him and Trey Lance are very close as far as highest ceiling, lowest floor goes in this class.
I mean, yeah, obviously passing, just the passing efficiency, the passing production obviously wasn't there, and there's a lot of excuses that you can make for every quarterback and for Wilson and Lawrence. There's also a lot of concern still, just like with this, just like with the other two. Like what we would think we'll get with Lance, what separates Fields and from a fantasy standpoint is what we like the most is rushing production. Sixth in carries, so seventh in carries per game. Just 2 rushing touchdowns. So you didn't have the rushing touchdown variance that some of these guys can get, at times.
The Bears couldn't get anywhere near a fucking goal line.
Absolutely. And generally, touchdowns are a product of how good the offense generally plays. He's also 5th in rushing yards. So the rushing production for young quarterbacks is it's what we want to see. Is they're trying to go out there and still extend the drives. Like the whole goal of the game is what? Score fucking points. So keeping those drives going by maybe not getting the elite counting production from a passing standpoint, he's still going out there and getting the rushing production, which is what we love to see. The concern is you get a new coaching staff, you get a new management staff is leash, right? Wilson's only one of these 3 that has a continuation with the staff. I'm not going to say that Fields is going to get replaced this year by any means, but if he goes out, has a dog season, Bears are picking top 3 in a class in a supposed QB class that's supposed to be significantly better than this one, especially at the top end. It's just something to keep note. It's the same thing for Wilson. It's the same thing for Lawrence too. We don't see the long leashes like we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be excited about the upside, which we definitely are. There is concern, and not every quarterback in this class is in the top 5 is going to hit, right? And we're just going to have to live with that.
You may not get through. You may not get through a rookie deal before you're replaced. Ask Drew Lock. Trey Lance. There's not really a lot of analysis we can give. He really didn't get into anything. He had one game against Houston in Week 17. He performed pretty well. It's not enough.
Week 17? I thought it was earlier 17, in the year.
Yeah. No, he had one against Arizona too, actually.
I thought he started one more game mid-season.
He looked a lot better against Houston than he did against Arizona, but you don't have a lot off of 2 games of advanced metrics to go on. The needle hasn't moved for me on Trey Lance at all. He's still like Justin. Oh. What?
I said, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, he's still high ceiling, low floor, and the development opportunity is good, and we'll see what happens throughout the offseason if it looks like he's going to get the chance this year or not. And, that's where what's really going to tell you more than anything is, okay, are they going to give him a shot in year 2, or are they not? And if not, then you've wasted half his rookie deal. What's up?
I will say this. He might have the best set of playmakers, and almost might be in the whole NFL. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's got the perfect. If there's nothing better than a quarterback who's new and needs to be, he needs to be coached up. Is having the best yak options available to him. With the way how they use Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, and the fact that he can run the RPO, the fact that he has a head coach with a track record of developing prospects
and making running backs work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're exactly right. He has a better set of weapons than any other quarterback in this class did. He's got a better set of weapons than most of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, this is a year. Garoppolo hasn't been cut or traded yet. Right. Seeing some small rumors out there saying that maybe the Niners decide to keep Garoppolo, and who knows, right? For as long as this continues to go, Lance's Valley is going to continue to keep rising until we get word either way with what happens with Garoppolo. But Lance's upside is top 3 in the NFL. Like, that's just where he sits from a fantasy perspective. He is. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want another Josh Allen potential, you were looking at him, and not saying it's going to happen, obviously, but he couldn't be he couldn't be set up more perfectly to reach that, some parts of those floors.
Nope, I agree completely. The other 2 guys that took starting reps, Mac Jones, so.
It's good.
He's good, not great. He was at it. He played as advertised. His floor is close to his ceiling, and he played kind of what we expected him to do. I don't think anybody should be surprised that Mac Jones fit New England and was the most pro-ready quarterback coming in. I don't think that you should be. You also shouldn't be surprised that. Looking through a lot of this, he was pretty much middle of the pack as far as most of his attempt metrics and downfield metrics and throw quality, high up there in money throws though.
He was good too.
High up there in air yards. Completion percentages were high. Look, Mac Jones has changed. Mac Jones has changed how I'm evaluating quarterbacks a little bit, and I think it's part of the reason why I'm higher up on Pickett some. And it's basically, instead of looking for the Konami code QB and saying you're automatically top 1, top 2, it's who's the quarterback that's athletic enough, maybe not hyper athletic, but who's athletic enough to run a little bit, scramble a little bit, escape pressure, and can throw on time, can get the ball out, can understand his reads and understand what he's seeing with, work quick and be decisive. It's kind of, similar to what I missed on with Herbert too, right? There's certain things out of a couple guys that missed on that have changed how I evaluate people to put me higher on Pickett. And Mac Jones is one of them, and I think what you saw to Mac Jones is very sustainable from a fantasy perspective. I don't know that it's going to go a lot higher. It's not Trey Lance or Justin Fields where the ceiling is the roof, right?
It's not even Trevor Lawrence because it's 2.6 rushing, carries per game. We know Mac Jones is not going to run the football.
No,
where it improves,
he's not going to try to.
No, and as New England continues to improve the receiving core, they did the same shit with Brady for the longest time. Just cater the offense towards what you want him to be, and that's game manager plus or just game manager. And he's one of the smartest players in football already. Like we got as advertised, we got our QB2 in Superflex, great QB2 option. No one gives a shit about him in single QB outside of depth. And that's what we have, and that's what we got from him. Mm-hmm. And it goes to show, just based on how you evaluate him, when you bring up Pickett's my highest graded quarterback in the class so far, which is all the top guys. So anyways, it doesn't matter. But, in terms of fantasy wise, I approach it differently because I don't view Pickett further enough away from the rest of the prospects to offset some of the rushing production from the other guys. Which is why I would put other guys over Pickett in my fantasy class. But I agree that Pickett's the best prospect in terms of football prospect that my untrained eyes will tell me. So,
yeah. In Mac Jones, I think it's sustainable. I think that's what you look at this performance and you say is that it's sustainable. And if they get better weapons around him, then it's going to raise his ceiling a little bit. But he's not going to raise his ceiling a lot on his own like a Fields or a Lance could do.
No. He'll need, just like I believe with Pickett.
Yeah,
just like I believe with Pickett, it's a guy that's going to not make his team he won't be the reason why his team takes the massive strides. He'll need playmakers around him, but he can definitely be a viable option when he gets playmakers around him. I like Kirk Cousins.
Why I saw a lot of a la Justin Herbert in Pickett, right? I saw a lot of the same things there, and it's Herbert landed well. You can't argue that. He landed with
he got Keenan Allen and Austin
Henry
Eckler
at the time, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Melvin Gordon, or not Melvin Gordon, sorry, but he landed well. And I think if Pickett does the same, then somehow we're on Kenny Pickett again. Davis Mills. I don't know what to say about Mills. Lovie Smith is saying they have an opportunity to get a really good quarterback. They're not sold on it. He overperformed what everybody expected, though, too. Does he start year 2? I don't know. But I think that...
I think he does.
A dynasty asset I want? I know that. The answer is not really. But
no,
he did... I think you got to acknowledge that he did outproduce what anybody could have ever reasonably.
He was the second best rookie quarterback
offense
this year.
Yeah, easily.
He was the second best rookie quarterback this past year, and no one can you can't deny that. Just watch the games. It's plain as day from a pure football standpoint.
And he got better as the year went on.
Yeah, and he has the weapon. He had an off-injured Brandon Cooks. He has a rookie Nico Collins. He has fucking Rex Burkhead and Phillip Lindsay and old man David Johnson and Brevin Jordan, his fucking weapons were terrible. And he outperformed Lawrence, Fields, and Wilson.
He did.
And sometimes it looked like by a country mile.
Yeah. Yes, it did. And, huge game against New England, and nobody does that to New England as a rookie quarterback.
Fucking Davis. Not Josh Larkey, though, man. Josh Larkey killed it out there.
That's right. All right, other names. Kyle Trask is firmly entrenched as a backup. Kellen Mond. We'll see what happens with the new regime.
Not looking good for Mr. Mond.
We'll see what happens with the new regime. Ian Book got a start. It was ugly. And Sam Ehlinger, he beat out Jacob Eason, so that's something, I guess.
Yep.
Those are all the names from this class, though.
Yeah.
Not a lot to take in there. Running backs. Handful of guys to talk about here. We'll talk about the top of the class first. Najee Harris got all the volume we expected him to. Javonte Williams really started to break out as the year wore along, and pretty much an even split with Melvin Gordon. And Travis Etienne missed the entire season because of the Liz Frank injury.
I'm so pumped for Etienne to come back. It's someone who loves his running backs to catch passes, and I'm hoping he's as explosive as he is. Marquise Brown was able to make his comeback and be very, very productive after that. Not saying that Etienne is going to have that type of impact, but he's going to be in a situation where there's still lack of receiving options, and he's got the familiarity with his own quarterback and with a large amount of receptions on his college profile. I want him, right? I know people love Javonte. I know people love Najee Harris. Well, people have a love-hate for Najee because he gets volume, but he's inefficient. He's basically Melvin Gordon that has caught passes early on in his career.
Well, I want to pause that, though, because talking about Najee, that's not all him, right? That offensive line we mentioned, they lost a ton of starters. We're going to be dog shit, and that's why we faded Najee. And I just there's some things here that I want to point out, if I may.
I'm sure. Do it
if you don't mind.
I will never mind.
He was second in yards created. He was 8th in breakaway runs. He was second in evaded tackles. So here's what that tells me. If you're top 2 in evaded tackles and yards created, and yes, that's going to be inflated a little bit because of the volume, because those are counting stats. That tells me that if the line gets better, your numbers and your efficiency is inherently going to get better. I mean, he's going to be a focal point of this offense for years to come. He led the league in receptions. You mentioned like in your backs to catch passes. He was second in carries. He easily had, the highest. I want to say he had the highest opportunity share, but it looks like he might have been second. No, he was first.
He's number 186.
Easily had the highest opportunity share in the league. And that's not going to change. That's how Pittsburgh uses their backs. It's going to change even less, not knowing what's going to go on at quarterback. He's going to continue to be involved in the passing game with a ton of volume, and if they can improve the line at all, especially the interior line, I think that you're going to see some of those efficiency numbers correct a bit.
Well, the counting stats of yards created and breakaway runs are going to look great.
Right.
30th in yards created per touch, and then 33rd in breakaway run rate. Right, he's getting there. And again, we want our running backs with volume. For Dynasty, we do. We tend to lean towards talent more so than it tends to lean a little bit towards the talent side. And in 1 year lenses, it's all about volume. And you said it beautifully. Their running back situation won't change. They drafted them in the first round. They have Mike Tomlin's got a long history of how he wants to use his running backs, and that has yet to change. If they add of anybody of significant note that could challenge him, then maybe we'll have a conversation. But I don't see Pittsburgh drafting a running back in the top 2 rounds or top 3 rounds, day 1, day 2. I don't see them adding anybody of significance to this backfield. You ride out Najee Harris for his 4 to 5 years because he's got that rookie deal, and then you probably trade him. He's getting up. He's already, 24 years old?
Yeah.
He'll be 24 by the time the season starts. Mm-hmm. You got 4 more seasons of him. You use them for 3, then you start looking for offers.
Yeah.
And that's just who he is. Like, he's not hyper talented. I think Devonta Williams is a better running back.
To almost every running back is these days when you get into second contract talk is you use them, you hold them for the first contract and you trade them. That's why I don't think running backs are an immediate top of the draft pick is an asset you hold. They're top of a rookie draft pick is an asset that you look to trade unless you're super close and got the number 1 pick because you had a ton of bad luck. Because
I want running backs in my rookie drafts just because.
That's what I mean. I want them in my rookie draft because they're capital and I can trade them for a lot when they hit.
Because people
they're not
the shit out for
if
them.
You're 3 years away, that's not a hold asset.
No, it's because by the time that you're ready to compete, you're hoping that you have 1 to 2 years on them, and they get that second contract. And not like when I watch Najee play, I don't think he's a guy that's going to scream, give me another contract. As
he's
Pittsburgh
also going to be
into
27 with a lot of mileage when that contract is up. Now they will have a 5th-year option, so it could be 28 with a lot of mileage when that contract is up.
Oh yeah, he'll probably. I can see them picking it up. But as you said, he'll be 28, and he has 2. He had massive production his final 2 years at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
This guy will be used and abused.
Yep.
By that 5th year, and
but you know who won't be? Because of Melvin Gordon.
Well, this year and his whole college career.
Devonta Williams. That's exactly it. He's a guy that could have some longevity, and a lot like what we saw with Derrick Henry in his career trajectory, which was probably going to be a new favorite for some career trajectory. He's splitting. And Joe Mixon. He's splitting early on. And that's going to save some of that wear and tear, save some of that mileage. He's highly efficient. And you get him going, he can really go. But he's splitting early on. He's going to be splitting for another year probably. And he's split in college. So when his time finally does come, absolutely, I think he's a top 6 or 7 back. Easily.
And it may start this year, right? I mean, we know he's
going to cut into it, I think. Even if
thankfully,
he's going to cut into it.
Yeah, thankfully, the hype from the community has kind of died down slightly to him. Probably not going to cost you an arm and a leg and a toe to get him anymore. But it's like, even if they bring somebody in, and I haven't really changed my stance on him. I got to see for an entire season what his role could be in a true
exactly
split
what I
backfield.
expected it to be.
Yeah, like it was a true split backfield. I don't expect Melvin Gordon to be back there. And even if he is, the man has been just used and abused. Easily see him falling off and having Devonta climb up to that 65-70% range, which we know running backs, high efficient running backs, can be RB1s, can be very good RB1s. Delvin Cook, Austin Eckler with Melvin Gordon. These guys can be productive and not get Najee Harris levels of opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, couple other guys that flashed a bit as I run through them. So Michael Carter, Ramondre Stevenson, Elijah Mitchell, and we'll go ahead and throw Khalil Herbert and Kenneth Gainwell into this too, and to kind of what I'd consider that next cluster. Michael Carter was very good in the receiving game. He was hurt mid-year. But like Javonte Williams, his college teammate, I think he was everything as advertised, and you saw, everything that I think you could want to see out of Michael Carter in year one in what really was a lackluster offense, and splitting a bit with Ty Johnson.
I mean, he's got the target volume. He's got the 14 target game on his profile, the 9 target game on his profile. He's got high receiving games on there as well. He's not the size of a back that's going to get that elite opportunity, but in an offense like the Jets, a team like the Jets that's constantly playing from behind, that's going to be top of the league in passing attempts and probably pace of play, at least hopefully, it's going to give a lot of opportunity for Michael Carter to catch passes, and that's going to help offset some of the touchdown opportunities that he may not get as opposed to the other backs in his class. But he can easily be a top 10, target guy amongst running backs and still be of value. And it just depends how the Jets want to attack the running back position in this upcoming free agent class and rookie class.
Or if
but
they
if Carter can, and even if they do, if they spend a first round pick on a running back, I'll be very concerned about Michael Carter. But I don't think the Jets will do that.
No,
unless they trade back.
They've got
pick 4 and pick 10. Unless they trade back to the bottom of the draft. No.
And even then, they've got too many other needs to where you address running
Absolutely.
back through that.
Absolutely.
When Michael Carter performed, and you can go find a free agency on the scrap pile to help.
Well, we said the same thing about Jacksonville, right? And Jacksonville, who had the Pierce diamonds in the rough, so James Robinson, and still took a running back in the first round. So
well,
anything can happen.
Jacksonville's also Jacksonville.
The Jets are
the Jets are the Jets.
Jets haven't
I
done much
have a little
either.
more faith in the Jets to
do.
With the Salah hire, with the Wilson pick, with the Carter pick, the Davis signing. I have a little bit more faith in the Jets to not screw this up as bad as Jacksonville lately.
Yeah.
The only other note I want to make on Carter: 14th in juke rate and 18th in yards created per touch. Very, very respectable for a first year back that doesn't have a high pedigree.
Yeah, and he's got a significant amount of games in that 60+ snap share, especially towards the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to like. I think we need to talk about Elijah Mitchell though, and
that is not who I was going to go to next. But go ahead, sir.
No, it's this guy could easily, like, he's in that top 4, right? We have Harris, Etienne. Oh, I guess Harris, Williams, Etienne because of prospect and what Mitchell was able to, to carve out and be who he was within this offense. A lot of conversations. We just watched James Robinson get replaced essentially in Jacksonville after having a stellar rookie season as an undrafted free agent, as these late round picks. The Philip Lindsay follow the same mold. You had Chris Carson who showed some flashes, and then Penny got brought in. Mitchell, though, in an offense that just seems to churn running backs and just always get production. Mitchell stays healthy, though, and which I think he'll be the starter when the season starts. I don't see why not. there's a lot of opportunity here too.
Yeah, the key for him was third and opportunity share, and it's going to be if he can maintain that, and the fact that balance with second team run plays per game. If Trey Lance is their starter next year, just inherently with rushing quarterbacks, those two numbers are going to go down, and that was the key to Elijah Mitchell's success, was second run plays per game and third and opportunity share.
But that should open up also from the efficiency standpoint when you get a when you get a quarterback who is an efficient runner who can hold the defenses in place on those RPOs, or just or on just the options in general. I mean, as we saw with what the Ravens were able to do with Lamar Jackson, I mean, Mitchell's production.
You hope it opens up the efficiency. But just saying,
touchdowns is a concern though with Lance. You are right.
Yeah, it's
big. It's
the touchdowns. It's potentially the receiving work. He had no drops, but just 19 receptions. There are some holes there that I think you want to see get better, and really the rushing. It's kind of like Najee Harris in the sense to where the efficiency numbers aren't that good necessarily. It's the fact that, again, volume is king, right? And that's what did it for him this year. I definitely see the narrative where Trey Lance comes in, the volume goes down, but things open up. But is that enough to be a net gain? I don't know. So,
well, I mean, we've seen this off. It just depends on what the offense will look like as Lance becomes more and more familiar.
You keep mentioning the offense, and there's one other thing I want to point out: the offense. When's the last time the same back has produced in back-to-back years?
That's the other concern.
Offense? Yes,
he's on the injury report for 6 different injuries and missed 6 games. 4 of those injuries led to missed time. Look, name to talk about because.
It is a name to talk about. It's
I've seen him. I've seen a lot of people touting him as a potential RB1 in Dynasty.
I could never do that with the San Francisco back. I don't think, because they change them more than they change their underwear. I mean,
I want to see one stay healthy for multiple years. Then, right?
I do too.
Let's
just
see one stay healthy.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But
this is like Vikings. This is like Vikings with quarterbacks before Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
they have a new one start every fucking year.
I mean, you're not wrong. I actually want to see this now, so I'm going to go look.
Kirk Cousins was the first quarterback in Vikings, or first quarterbacks I think since Fran Tarkenton that started multiple that played 2 full seasons. That played 2 full seasons. So I think it was since Fran Tarkenton, which I think was done in the 70s.
Sure. All right, your leading rusher. Here we go. Last 5 years, they've been different. It was Elijah Mitchell this year, Jeff Wilson last year, Raheem Mostert the year before, Matt Breida the year before, and then before that, you had
Carlos Hyde.
Yep, but that was not with Kyle Shanahan. So it was Carlos Hyde for multiple years before that, but that was with, I think it was Jim Kelly and Tom Sula.
No,
and then
it was Jim Kelly. Was it Jim Kelly? No, Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly. That's right. It was Chip Kelly and then Jim Tom Sula, and before that, when you had Harbaugh, it was a lot of Frank Gore, because Frank Gore's Frank Gore. You did that for multiple coaches, but I'm just saying that in the Shanahan era, you have not had the same leading back one time. And actually,
was it was every single time due to injury though? It has. Like,
probably because those backs can't stay.
I mean, but that's the case, right? If they find and maybe they thought they found him with Trey Sermon, because he's bigger, then they found out that he's just not a fit for the offense. It's just whoever breaks out in San Francisco, right? It's why we always tell you guys, just pick up any San Francisco back and just hold on to them.
Because there's a chance.
Because at some point, there's a chance. And if they start, they're probably doing some things with it. Like, we keep seeing it with these fucking 6th, 7th round undrafted guys.
Yeah.
Practice squad guys. They keep producing. They know who they want to go after.
The other guy we need to talk about here is Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay.
Or LeGarrette Stevenson. Or
Ramondre Blunt Stevenson.
Ramondre Blunt Ajayi. Ramondre Stevenson had himself a good rookie year. He split with Damian Harris, but they were very defined roles. And when I deep dove into this, I actually need to pull up a different set of notes for this, but when I deep dove into this, him and Damian Harris very closely mirrored the split that LeGarrette Blount and Dion Lewis had. Let me find the things I saw that made me like Stevenson a lot. Just a second.
Fourth and juke rate, probably one of them.
Yeah, probably. Let's see. Yeah, it was a timeshare with Harris, but lower breakaway run rate, not quite as elusive as he managed, just 25th and 27th, and juke and evaded tackles. Didn't have receiving upside, but he was third in yards after contact per attempt, behind Chubb and Taylor. Second in attempts per broken tackle, behind Javonte Williams. These are player profile or not profiler metrics. These are Pro Football metrics. So that's elite company, right? When you're sitting up there with yards after contact with Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor, and only behind Javonte Williams and attempts per broken tackle, that is a beefcake of a back. That is a guy that is going to pick up that tough yardage for you, going to pick up that goal line yardage for you, and can absolutely be a grinder. And it's different from Harris, who really just did a little bit more in the receiving game and played a little bit different of a role. But I really like the upside of Ramondre Stevenson. Now, juke rate 35.4, that's good, but the evaded tackles at 27th is not. So I'm a little torn there on those two things being so far apart. But
I mean,
there's upside. Is basically what
there's
it is.
There's some, right? This offense gets better, more scoring opportunity. If Stevenson's blunt, he's going to get a lot of the goal line work.
He will.
He's got to get a lot of touchdowns, and we know touchdowns aren't sticky. Target, he just doesn't get involved in the passing game enough. Maybe that changes when when they let Harris go after this season. If they let him go or not, this season. If they let him go, which seems to kind of be the case. They like to. Maybe they re-sign him if they don't want to bring in another guy, if they don't like another guy enough to play alongside Stevenson. And maybe that's where the upside stands in, is that if something happens to Harris or if Harris walks or is let go next year, then there's upside. I'm not excited, but he definitely played better than expectations. I will easily give it that. And if Harris gets hurt this year, I think Stevenson will still be a value in drafts, prior to the season going. So he'll be someone that you want to have on your roster, because if anything were to happen to Harris, there is upside definitely in that.
I don't even think you need something to happen to Harris for there to be upside as a 2 or a flex, and that's the thing that I want to point out. With you say you're not excited, well, here's why I am kind of excited. Right, he's not a highly valued asset, but he is an asset that I think as we get into next season is going to produce in that RB2 flex sort of range. Most teams will opt to start 3 backs, and you need to pay attention to more than just the top of your roster. And this is why, Ramondre Stevenson is one of those RB2, RB3 guys that, I kind of want to target. We put a lot of focus on who's your one, who's going to be the elite guy, who's going to be 7th and 8th. But when it comes to roster construction, a guy like Ramondre Stevenson is a good thing to have around that's going to get week-to-week value if you run into an injury by splitting.
He absolutely needs to be rostered in all leagues.
He's got to be rostered, but he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg if you want to acquire him either. Yes, I'm advocating to go try and kick the doors on Ramondre Stevenson and see if you can get something cheap, especially if you acquired some extra 2nd and 3rd round picks that you can pair with something.
I mean, just wait till your rookie draft, and those draft picks are worth a lot.
Yeah,
and you're staring at the end of the second, at the end of the second. Mid-second round, and you find the guy who has him on his squad and throw him out the deal. If you like Ramondre Stevenson enough, like you said, he's not going to cost you a lot of draft capital,
capital.
or won't cost you. He just won't cost you a lot to be able to acquire him. It's a great throwing piece, and he's got upside to boot. On that, so I'm not excited. Like he's just someone that I know needs to be on rosters. He is a clear backup or a clear 1B split that has easy RB2 upside if Harris gets hurt. He doesn't have the volume that's going to pump him up. He'll have some Nick Chubb-esque weeks, right? A couple big plays, gets a couple touchdowns. He won't have the receiving volume to prop up in the non-touchdown weeks, but I mean, the guy's got multiple 20-carry games on his resume so far. He almost had a third in Week 17 against Jacksonville. If game script is going in the way of New England, Stevenson's going to get that work, and that's what you hope for.
That's why I want to have him. It is a tool in your fantasy football toolbox.
That's right.
Kenneth Gainwell, go ahead.
It's weird, right? He was the backup when Sanders was the starter, not hurt. Sanders goes down. Everyone expected, just based on how Philadelphia scripted it to us. Knowing like Boston Scott's behind Sanders. They just brought up Jordan Howard. And it's now the Gainwell show. Sanders is hurt for a couple weeks. And then it's Howard and Scott, and Gainwell is the clear third with no real reason. Sanders comes back, and then Gainwell kind of regains his role. I don't know if Howard or Scott's going to be there. I'm not looking at their contract situation. But Sanders has yet to be able to play a full season. The coaching staff, which is not changing, doesn't seem to want to get him the volume which he'll need to be an elite asset for fantasy. And we know Gainwell is a better pass catcher than Sanders, and it can kind of fill the same type of role that Sanders plays. Doesn't have his size, so you can't expect elite, volume if Sanders were to go down. But there is still the receiving upside. He gets used in 2-minute drills, and he's still someone you want to have on your team. And there's still a lot of guys like me who are big truthers. So if you have them, if you're not in love with them, if the value increases because something happens to Sanders or Gainwell has a Tony Pollard-esque type of ascension this year, then there's some value to him there too. But Gainwell, just like Stevenson, just like Chuba Hubbard, just like Khalil Herbert, are all guys you have to have in your roster because running backs, half of them get hurt. And there's no real way to predict it, to a T. So you want to have these number 2 guys on there, and you want especially guys like Gainwell who can catch passes and will be used in that way.
All right, I'm going to talk Khalil Herbert for just a minute.
You should.
Yeah, he absolutely should. Khalil Herbert was put himself into premium tier handcuff talk behind David Montgomery. Montgomery's, I think, entering the last year of his contract. So,
yes.
Herbert was an older prospect. He like Najee Harris, is going to be 24 at the start of the season. But if he produces this year in pinch duty or in a split backfield, or if Montgomery goes down and produces again, and the Bears opt to not re-sign him, this is a 2 years from now play that you can absolutely make. Khalil Herbert in his 3 starts saw close to 20 carries in all of them, 112 and 133 yards in back-to-back games, so back-to-back 100-yard games. 2 games around that, 75 and 68. Targets and receptions weren't there. We do hope Tariq Cohen can make it back at some point, so don't expect that part of the game to be there. But this is a guy that if David Montgomery misses is a premium tier handcuff, and you should have him rostered as well.
You want write it down in your notebook. You're listening to the Beardfield podcast. We bring up Khalil Herbert. Write this down. Just one note I want you to take away from this show is to get as much Khalil Herbert as you can.
Because after this year, if Montgomery still
could be
produces
gone
like he was, and Montgomery goes, Khalil Herbert is right in line to be that guy, especially if he's productive again.
He's going to cost significantly less. He's going to have 2 more years on his own rookie deal. Montgomery is done. He's been serviceable, / good, but he's not league breaking. He's not groundbreaking enough. And the Bears are still, in the midst of figuring out and retooling this roster around.
Figuring out what they want to be.
Absolutely no reason for the Bears to re-sign and bring back Montgomery. Unless if the money makes sense, sure. Obviously, cost is always, in this equation, but Montgomery is probably going to command or try to command top 12 running back money. And Herbert proved easily in the 3 games that he was a starter that he can be just as serviceable, if not more, than Montgomery. So go out there and try to acquire or pick up Khalil Herbert, and I put him on your roster.
The only other guy I want to mention in the running back class is Nwanwu. He had a couple big plays. He is an athletic freaking marvel, and he's a guy to watch. That's the only. I don't want to deep dive it or anything like that. I just want to say that he's a guy to watch. He had some big plays. He's explosive. He's hyper athletic. It is a crowded running back room, but just keep an eye on.
Play special teams. He'll always be active on game day.
Yep,
that's all that matters. He plays special teams. He'll be active.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll hit reviews and then we'll do it for the rest of this.
Yeah. Pretty much just receivers.
I'm almost out of bourbon. Yeah, we'll talk tight ends briefly.
There's a couple tight ends to talk about.
Beer review.
All right, I'm going to go first because I'm almost out. Nose on this is like straight coffee cake. It is coffee cake, cinnamon streusel. Yeah, definitely some vanilla tannins to it, but it's like coffee cake, cinnamon streusel. It's a pastry. On the mouth, it's definitely evolved over time. When I first tried it, it very, very much had like a cherry cola note to it. As it's evolved, the oak tannins have come out a little bit more, so those are definitely present underneath the rest of this bourbon. Up front, you get a big blast of like cinnamon red hot candy and heavy caramel, heavy vanilla, heavy barrel char. It's a good balance between spice, sweet, and kind of a dry tannic finish. The finish is relatively short. Consider it medium. Drinks easier than it's proof. Definitely will get the job done, and I would absolutely consider it worth $70. So there's that. I've also been drinking a little bit on the Spotted Cow. It's not the best chocolate milk stout I had. It's got a lot more roasty, toasty notes than I typically want in a sweeter stout. Chocolate's still there. So there you go. There's a Light Hand of Fate review too.
Yeah, and drinking Phase 3s checks out. Dark Lager. Look, we talked a lot about this at the beginning of the show. The style, what the beer should be printed out when you drink it, and what I love about dark lagers in general is that they're not nearly as thick or heavy as a lot of the powder porter and styles that you'll drink that will bring out these similar roastiness. Chocolate's obviously not going to stand out. It's more of a of that thicker malt to it. But again, I want to highlight this style a lot because I wish more breweries would put it out into distribution. I know a lot of breweries make it as random small batches from time to time at their home locations. I wish more would put these out into the availability. So, to anybody out there that's got recommendations for ones that we should be looking out for, I do a lot of traveling because of my job, and we also love to travel the Midwest and do a bunch of stuff, and we always stop at liquor stores along the way. So if anyone's got recommendations, please shoot them out. Let us know. Twitter at Beerfield30 at Beerfield Hop 2Ps, or make a comment on the show. Let us know, and we'll give it a review, and we'll shout you out.
For anybody that's curious what I just poured, this is my infinity bottle.
Ooh. You know what? See, you know what's in there? It's not like Brad's list, right? Shout out Roto Lounge when he talked about his Infinity. There's like 10 different bourbons I think he put in there.
So it's definitely not
absurd.
all written down. What I have written on here, because I stopped writing them after a point. Because, I mean, look how full that thing is. That's the last pour. The Infinity bottle for me is the last pour of
each
bottles
thing, yeah.
I drink not even each thing. I stopped putting some things in here. This is the last pour of bottles I liked, and I've almost filled up a fifth. What's in this one for sure is 11 and Wine and Spirits Woodford Double Oak Pick, Michter's American Whiskey, Twin Liquors Old Forester Single Barrel, 15-year Knob Creek 120, a Benny's Pick. A Benny's Pick of a Maker's Mark Private Select, Bullet, Four Roses Small Batch, Eagle Rare, Old Granddad Bonded, Evan Williams Bottled and Bond, Maker's 46, Larceny Wine and Cheese Place Pick, 80 Laws 4 Grain, Four Roses Single Barrel Pick from Roof Brothers. I've got a barrel pick of that 4 Grain, by the way. We'll open together next time you're down here. A New Riff Single Barrel Pick, E.H. Taylor Small Batch. And then recently I know that Peerless has gone in here because I did split a pour with that. I split a pour with Bluegrass Weeded, the one we bought at your bachelor party. I finished that bottle today.
Nice.
So there's some of that in here and probably about 10 or 15 other things that I'm not sure of. So
love it.
It's... I stopped writing because, as you can see, I ran out of room on the piece of paper.
I'll have to give that a try next time. Just, do a pour of, we'll call it a taste of the Midwest.
Yeah, it's a taste of something. Sorry, I knocked a bottle of New Riff off the shelf. For those that don't know what an Infinity bottle is, by the way, it's a way to make your bourbon essentially live on for infinity. So when you get to the bottom of a bottle, the idea is that the last pour of that bottle goes into the Infinity bottle, and then it will blend with other things you pour into it and live on forever. So that's what this is.
Yep.
All right, wide receivers. Let's go ahead and start with the three obvious guys. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith.
We don't talk too much about Chase.
No.
Or what? I mean, we've
talked a lot about Waddle too.
Yeah.
I think the ideas with Chase is that he's a top 2 dynasty wide receiver. With Waddle, you saw everything you wanted to. You just hope the depth of target gets a little bit better, and the new offense, because they were using him a ton along the line of scrimmage, but the volume and everything was absolutely there. Devonta Smith is the guy that I think where we got to kick this off from.
Got grade A dot, 14.4, 6 in air yard share, 9th in deep targets. For a quarterback, for a running quarterback, it's most would think the passing volume being down, and they're gonna keep it short and sweet, and not try to chug it deep all the time. Smith impress, right? We can make all the BMI jokes all we want. Philadelphia has a clear mind for his role, and Smith, being able to fill that out and be a great asset is it's something that's good to see for those that have spent up into him. And he was still 10th in unrealized air yards, so we have a lot of upside to him. Still,
he's being used downfield. That's something that they've absolutely been looking for. Rush first quarterback, so you want to see that improve a little bit. But solid first season for Devonta Smith. I mean, he's a wide receiver 30. You need him to grow up a little more to have the value built into him if you were to want to trade him away. He's very much a holder right now. Next round, Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, guys that kind of flashed but didn't really go. I'll riff on Toney for a minute because I know you don't like him. So, most of the Giants receivers were affected by poor offensive play. They were affected by the same thing. It was It was low ADOT. It was poor target quality. But when Kadarius Toney was healthy, the Giants had him involved. He was 7th in target rate. Low volume team. That's one thing that hurt them. So, it was just 5.7 per game, but that's still pretty good. Yards per route run was 17th, which is good. Separation was good. Contested catch rate was a very passable. 40th in yards after the catch. That's total yards after the catch, and he missed 6 games. So Toney showed that kind of the athleticism, elusiveness, and ability to be a guy that can pick up yardage and be used as a weapon was absolutely there. He's not going to be a 1. He's going to be a guy that you have to scheme in and use in the right ways, and we knew that when he was drafted. And he did deal with injuries, which you've got to pay attention to. He had multiple strains and sprains in year 1. He missed 7 games because of it, 9 injury reports. But the underlying results were promising, especially when you look at guys like Kenny Golladay, who had been productive elsewhere, Sterling Shepard, who'd been productive in years past, and Darius Slayton, who had also produced in years past. The underlying numbers on Toney were better than all 3 of those guys. So it's something to pay attention to. It's somewhat of a buy low opportunity, but you don't want to pay a price that it's like when you invest in the stock market, right? If you're going to pay a price for Toney, you want to make sure you're okay with losing it, even though there's some high reward there, because it may never manifest. I just think it's worth pointing out that on a bad Giants offense where a lot of receivers had very poor underlying metrics, his were actually pretty passable.
Yeah, he stays on the field. He stays healthy. We've applauded the Giants, moves they made in the offseason to, address the GM and the head coaching positions. They made some good, hires on the coaching staff. So it's they're going to have that 5th year with them. Daniel Jones is probably on its way out. Giants are not slated to be a good team next year. They'll pick high. They get high enough, you get a chance at the top 2 quarterbacks that people are touting very, very highly. A lot could change for him, right? He's got the 13 target game. He's got the 12 target game. He's got the big 189-yard game with 137 air yards to it. So we've seen it. He's put at least one of those games on paper, and he's not going to cost you a lot to be able to try to go out there and acquire him. He's cheap for a lot of us who picked him up, because just like in years past, when the entire community hates on a player, it always makes him a value in his rookie drafts. And Toney was still a 1st-round pick. So there's still a better, chance than not that he'll find himself on the field for as long as he can stay healthy and keep his shit together, right? He's 6 injuries on his injury report, and he's had off the field. There's always something, and that's going to kill you quicker than anything else, is just not get on the field. So if he can get his shit together and stay healthy, and the Giants are anything of substance in the 22 season, then there's value to Toney. Absolutely. That's the most amount of positive things you'll hear me say about him, though.
Nope, I figured. And I don't like saying positive things either, but he was the best wide receiver on the Giants when he was on the field. So take that for what it's worth. Rashad Bateman, this is a guy that I think we expect to have more upside on what we anticipate is probably going to be a low-volume passing offense, where Marquise Brown took some nice strides. But let's talk Bateman for a minute.
Bateman missing the first 5 games due to injury. Obviously missed all of training camp and preseason because he got hurt at the beginning of it. Wide receiver is one of the most difficult positions to transition to from college to pros. And with low volume, established playmakers that stayed healthy throughout, and Brown and Andrews, on top of having to take snaps away and basically, change spots with Sammy Watkins, who was the big wide receiver get for the Ravens in the offseason last year. Bateman carved himself out a role. He impressed the coaching staff as soon as he stepped onto the field, and was able to be productive with not only Lamar Jackson, but with Tyler Huntley, for whatever that's worth. But it's still is still the no. This is still a low volume offense. They're a low volume passing offense. They've been increasing the pass more. We're going to have to see how this offense looks now when they don't have 85% of their starting players missing. Bateman year 2, a lot of us are excited for it. Brown should not be getting the amount of target share that he got. That's for him. It's all deep targets. The one that you want to pamper more is a guy like Bateman who can work over the middle more and be more successful, just given his size and his ability to win, versus zone and man, while also starting to support Andrew. So if he blows up, it might be in the same way that with AJ Brown, where he reaches a certain ceiling, you have to start you're talking to yourself about maybe potentially moving him. But Bateman should be looking. He's also someone that you should be looking to try to acquire for cheap, especially in this year's class, in this year's rookie class. After the big options go, Bateman still has first round draft capital, and he's still impressed in a lot of ways that won't show up on the box score.
Now, in the interest of keeping it moving, Elijah Moore. Sorry, I don't disagree with anything you said on Bateman.
No, I know.
You're a big Bateman stan.
We both love Moore.
You're going to say
I just stand Bateman.
better.
You can stand Moore right now.
All right, I will stand Moore. So Elijah Moore, kind of a mixed bag this season. He did deal with I think he dealt with a couple of injuries, but he also dealt with just inconsistent quarterbacking. I mean, Zach Wilson had some issues there in the middle where he missed a couple games. Yeah, quad strain caused 3 games missed and a concussion. So Zach Wilson had his own issues. Elijah Moore really thrived kind of with Mike White there for a bit before coming back on.
And Joe Flacco. Before coming back on a bit with Wilson.
Target premium was good. Some of the efficiency metrics are actually not all that great, but what Elijah Moore has is explosiveness, and he has the ability to be a very viable weapon in this offense. It may take a little bit longer for them to figure out kind of how to use him to get that consistent performance. He was not playing a ton out of the slot. He was playing a lot outside, which he's athletic enough to do, but his size definitely puts him as a huge mismatch in the slot, and I think that might be where he long-term ends up when Jamison Crowder is out. But as long as Crowder and Berrios are there, they're going to be trying to use more outside where he might be a little miscast. Either way, very explosive player. I think he lived up to what the expectations for him were. In your
Crowder, I believe, is a free agent.
Yeah, it's Berrios, though, that I worry about, too, if they don't do anything else there.
They are in talks to re-sign Berrios. Look, Moore is amazing. Like, to preserve time-wise, it's...
The question going into the season was, which Moore is it? The answer was Elijah, not Rondale.
Yeah. And let's hope he stays healthy, too. Even if they bring in a guy like London or Burks, that's going to have significantly higher premium capital.
Yes.
More is more than good enough.
Do we need to talk more about Amon-Ra St. Brown, or can we just say go back and reference the episode with John Hogue where we talked a lot about Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Nope, we're good. Love him still.
It's a mixed bag. I love him. You love him. There's a mixed bag between buy and sell on him.
Yeah.
Other receivers in this class, by the way, if something stands out, just stop me. Rondale Moore, anything?
We'll see what it looks like without Christian Kirk and AJ Green. That's it. I think Kirk's going to cost too much. I think he's gone.
Kirk leaves, yeah.
Yeah, and I think AJ Green's also a free agent. Well, they're going to have to change the way they use him. Yep. He's too much of a gadget player from the be a true fantasy asset right now.
Dwayne Eskridge.
Nope.
Tutu Atwell.
Nope.
Terrace Marshall.
He got replaced by Shi Smith and other undrafted guys. You combine the talent the way that we bought in, that I still kind of believe in Laviska Shenault, kind of, but at least Chenault's situation is extremely better right now.
Same thing with De'Ami Brown. I mean, there was nobody there on the football team to to take away from him behind McLaurin, and it didn't pan out.
Oh, he's probably not going to be a thing.
Or sorry, the Commanders. I got to get used to that now too.
Yeah, fucking football team.
Amari Rodgers with the Packers. Again, not enough opportunity there. Nico Collins, little bit with the Texans, but I mean, it was mostly Brandon Cooks there. Anthony Schwartz.
Collins. He's so hyper athletic. There's been rumors that they're trying to trade Brandon Cooks. Maybe 1 year wonder. Maybe he'll get the volume this year before they start to, retool and replace this
I hope
offense.
they trade Brandon Cooks because he's younger than Cooper Kupp and still produces on every team he goes to somehow.
For the love of God, trade him to an offense that has actual fucking upside.
A team that will just trade Cooks to a team that will just fucking appreciate
the Chargers. They're losing Mike Williams.
Trade him to a team that will just fucking appreciate him and hold on to him for a couple of years. Send him back to the Saints when Michael Thomas leaves town. I don't care. Send him to Buffalo. Send him somewhere that guy is appreciated because all he does is produce and get shipped out.
Yep. Love it.
Anthony Schwartz showed some explosive ability in year one. You want to see him find a bigger role with the Browns. The opportunities there, with Landry potentially winning out too. I mean, there's a ton of opportunity there in Cleveland. You just want to see him capitalize on that. So keep an eye on that.
Got third round DC too, which helps.
Yeah, third round DC. He's a good guy. He's a guy I would target as a throw-in piece if I'm a rebuilding team and need a little bit more on top.
Do not hate that.
Des Fitzpatrick, I don't have anything to say.
Nope.
Nothing on Jalen Darden, nothing on Tylan Wallace, Jacob Harris, Amir Smith-Marset. Anything there?
He continues to, he carved himself a role late last season. Thielen's getting old. It's just another potentially great find from Spielman. So he's someone just to have on your, back of the bench. He should be rostered. He does play special teams, so he will always be active.
Yep. Simi Fehoko, useless. Cornell Powell, Frank Darby, Marquez Swanson, Shi Smith, Racy McMath, which is still one of the funnier names of this class, Jalen Camp, Seth Williams, Daz Newsome, Mike Strachan, Trey Nixon, Ben Skoranek. Really did not take advantage of any opportunity he was given this year, and he was definitely given them. Rams need to get deeper.
I mean, they had Tutu Atwell.
Yeah,
deeper.
Rams need to get deeper at wide receiver. I mean, behind Kupp, Beckham had the torn ACL, so even if he comes back, he's not going to be ready to go week one. Woods,
it's looking kind of
be
dim. They need a lot more from Van Jefferson. He needs to step up.
They do.
To take advantage of the expanded role he's about to get.
Yeah, or they need to improve on top of that because they don't have much behind it.
Maybe they'll trade for. They'll try to get back Brandon Cooks.
Actually,
I mean, let's be real, man. With him with Stafford and that, oh man,
why not? That'd be pretty.
Single coverage all day.
Quan Baker, Dax Milne, nothing on them. Tight ends, only two we need to talk about: Kyle Pitts and Pat Freiermuth.
How high can we be on Pitts? How high can one person be on Pitts? Without touchdowns, right? Like the only reason why we're not like the hype isn't higher on him is because he scored one touchdown.
That's it. That's
it. Like he achieved all the levels you want to see him to achieve.
The Falcons need to do some things to improve that offense. Matt Ryan is still what I would consider a viable NFL quarterback,
and he's going to stay there because Tom Brady retired. Mm-hmm. The NFC South has a worse quarterback room than any other division of football.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's the best quarterback in that league or in that division, so he's going to stay. Yep. It's going to be a matter of you had the unexpected loss of Calvin Ridley after you pulled out Julio Jones. You need to put weapons back into that offense. Pitts is a good start to that. You need to put a running game back into that offense because they were severely lacking that, even with Cordero Patterson being a good gadget. They need a lot of help, but Pitts will continually get volume. You need him to get touchdowns. And until then, he's going to be behind the top echelon of tight ends.
I still want him in Dynasty. I still think he's
Dynasty.
a top. I still think he's a top. I think he's top two. I think you can argue with Andrew just given age, what he's done so far, and the fact that we know touchdowns is very random.
Yeah,
the fact that he's so he could find himself into 7-8 touchdowns next year, and no one would be shocked.
He's top 2 or 3. It's Andrews and then maybe Kittle that I think are up there. Kelsey's too old to be up there at this point.
Waller's getting to that point,
and Waller had
to me Pitts is one.
Waller had a very down year, so
yeah, I would still put Pitts above both, but it's close,
Andrews
right?
And Kittle kind of all in a tier there at the top end of the tight end.
1A through 1C. They're happy with one of them.
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth is the only other thing. He saw utilization in Pittsburgh year 1. He was pretty much a Dalton Schultz level of productivity, which I think firmly puts him as a first-year tight end into, beyond that top 3 we talked about, right? You're a first-year tight end that's producing at a level that is fantasy relevant. You might as well be a top 8 tight end in Dynasty, and I think that's where Freiermuth has to land right now. I mean, outside of, you've got Dawson Knox probably in that conversation. Don't know where Dalton Schultz is going, right? Kelsey would still be above that. Gronk might retire. So you're just
he falls in that large cluster of if he stays healthy, he's a top 7 tight end.
In redraft, I think in Dynasty he's a top 7 tight end just because there's some certainty there into the fact that you've got some years of productivity out of him. Quarterback question, sure, but you've got some years of productivity out of him coming. I don't think that there's a lot of people I would put ahead of him. I mean, it's the 3 guys we mentioned, Travis Kelce and maybe Dawson Knox.
I'd put Waller ahead of him. So Waller, when healthy, is going to still be the focal point of the Raiders' offense.
So Waller,
with him and Renfro.
So Waller and Knox, that's 5.
So you have Hawkinson.
Hawk, yes. How can I forget about Hawk? 6.
And I think that's where the clump comes from, right?
Yeah.
Depends how you feel about Noah Fant.
Because Hawk should be up there. And then, that's where the clump comes from. You have Freiermuth, who's insulated. You have Fant, who's got Alberto in the same offense and needs to stay healthy. You've got, I think, Evan Ingram's utilization says good things, but the productivity hasn't been there, and the injuries have been there, and you're going to have to see him as a second-team guy. So you're right. That is where the clump comes in. And I'm inclined to favor Freiermuth just because the role is insulated for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like Freiermuth. He was, I still think he'll be a completely fine. Is he going to blow the socks off? No. He is,
but is he
firmly in just as a good tight end option to have.
A starting tight end on a Dynasty roster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
easily.
All right. That should wrap her up.
Mini-series completed.
Next week we'll have, I think we're doing free agency preview. I don't remember. I think next
probably.
Week, I think it's a free agency preview because free agency actually starts the week after. So I think we're doing a free agency preview next week.
God, are we is it that close already?
Yeah, March 15th is when the free agency is when I think the legal tampering period starts. So it's that close. We'll have combine stuff to get through as well because the combine is next week starting. So some things to get through there. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Josh Larkey will be joining us sometime. Maybe.
He'll be on.
Eventually.
Sometime.
Yeah. I'm at Beerfield Hoppies, Beerfield Thoroughly Shows, Beerfield Fantasy Beerfield Podcast. Sorry, on YouTube. Getting all choked up here. It's time to go. Down,